Welcome, everybody, to the Big Dudes in the Trenches. I am Doug. Over here is Tug. And below us, and now above me, and now to the left of me, is Bug.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome back, man.
He does survive. He is back.
That's great news. It's
It
been too long.
It was amazing that I survived and made it here. So, yeah, glad to be back.
Well, you know what our Monday shows are all about. We have a lot of things to review, a lot of news to go over this episode as well. Surprisingly, haven't had that too much in the last couple of episodes. So stay strapped in, folks. It's going to be an episode and a half right here for you.
What another wild week of football, though, guys. Like, all
Right?
the way across. Even the NFL got in on some of the craziness this week.
Second time in NFL history we've had a 11-10 final score.
Yep.
Anybody know what the last time, who the two teams were? Anybody?
I
Tug
looked it up
literally
last
told
night.
me yesterday,
Yeah.
and I don't remember.
I got this.
Steelers beating the Chargers.
That's right.
That doesn't matter. Okay. So, NFL news. You want to kick us off, Tug?
I will. I will kick us off here with I don't know if this is good news. I don't quite know how I feel about this because, let's be honest, the Pro Bowl has just been kind of trash for the past few years. So they're making a change. They're bringing in the Pro Bowl games. Now, what this is going to be, it's a week-long skills competition. The game, and we have game quotation marks in our notes here, is that it's flag football. So there's going to be skills competition all week, and then on the weekend, they're going to do a flag football game. I don't know how I feel about it because I still feel like it's the overproduced pageantry. Like, skills competition, I'm all for. I just don't know how I feel about flag football. What do you guys think?
Well, would it help sway your opinion if I told you the only way we get football in the Olympics is if it's flag football? That's the reason the NFL is doing this. And actually, they've partnered with a flag football organization that's going to help produce this and is trying to make football in the Olympics happen, which would be this version of flag football. So I
can get on board with that. Yeah, I can get on board with that. And the Pro Bowl needed a change anyway. Like, it was overworked, and honestly, nobody really cared anymore.
Well, I got two thoughts on this. The skills competition, can we please just make it the gridiron games? Like, you could get just as hurt doing any skills competition as you could doing all the goofy stuff they were doing in the gridiron games back in the early 2000s. That's what I would prefer to see.
I just want to see some truly wild shit.
I want to see a big quarterback like Byron Leftwich being the anchor for tug of war again. That's what I really want to see.
That's fair.
The second
I think it was either Travis or Jason Kelsey put out the idea that offensive and defensive linemen should have a hot dog eating contest as part of this.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. And the second thing I want to say relates to the flag football. If that's how we get football in the Olympics, awesome. But I also want to throw out here, don't shit on it yet. If you watch the FCF or if you listen to us when we were talking about the FCF, there was a charity flag football game going on in between the two sets of games this year. And Tyreek Hill was one of the guys I remember that played in it. And it was wildly entertaining. It was a celebrity and NFL star mashup here for that flag football game. Look, I'm not saying it's going to be any better than what the Pro Bowl has been, but it's definitely not going to be any worse because they might as well have had flags on their hips before anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Sorry, guys. I keep looking back. We do have Monday Night Football on in the background, or at least I do. Doug, I'm assuming you do as well.
Are you saying that because my internet's cutting out?
No, I'm saying that because you have also been pulling it up, and I know your setup is pretty good for that type of thing. You love.
I mean, I'm trying.
Yeah, there
I'm
you
struggling at the moment, but
you're not.
trying.
You have not cut out at all.
Okay, that's good. Progress.
See, but now when we do our Super Bowl stream, we will have an entertainer to talk about. It is not Taylor Swift. The NFL has officially announced. I know previously it was rumored they were in contract negotiations, and well, social media bullied T Swift out of it. Rihanna is now the Super Bowl halftime show for this year, along with Rock Nation. Guys, are you excited for this? What are you expecting?
For those who don't know, Rock Nation is the Jay-Z company where the Big 12 just pulled their new commissioner from. So they are very connected to football and very much involved in football. So I don't think this is as bad as it sounds.
Fair.
I'm excited to see if the internet bullies Rihanna out of doing this as well. That'd be pretty cool.
I highly doubt it.
Seems most people are on board that I've been seeing. I know. I'm sure there's plenty of people in both camps.
I will say this. Like pop country maybe has a place at a Super Bowl halftime show, but straight country, like Taylor Swift, not so
Taylor
much.
Swift is definitely not pure country and hasn't been for 2 decades at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Either way, her music does not belong at the Super Bowl halftime show. And
Well,
if you
all right,
disagree
so
with me, you're just wrong.
Here's my take on this that I've been saving up for this conversation on air because I want to get your reaction to this. I would say this is definitive proof that the halftime show is not for people who are watching the Super Bowl. It's just get more TV viewers on the Super Bowl itself.
I guarantee you
so
some NFL executive's granddaughter was like, hey, get Taylor Swift on for the halftime show. I guarantee you that's how this happened.
I'm just going to say there's no way we're ever going to get that Metallica halftime show, even though every football fan in existence wants that.
Or the Aerosmith.
It's not going to attract a different crowd than would already be tuning in. And so to get the intersection of Super Bowl watchers and halftime show watchers to be the biggest it could possibly be, we're going to keep seeing some wild artists thrown out there for this. Like The Weeknd, already kind of off base for this. Last year, I mean, kind of made sense. It was all the LA guys. And then
Eminem.
Right. And then this year it was down Taylor Swift and Rihanna. So it's not exactly the football fans' first choice for music entertainment.
I'm just stuck on how Taylor Swift's music doesn't fit, but Rihanna's does. Or is she in the same vein, Ben?
I don't think either of them fit.
Okay.
I'll say this too. The only reason Taylor Swift was probably thrown out there, she's basically just been re-releasing all of her music to actually make money off of it. There's a whole thing with that and her contract deal that she had with her previous record label. And so her popularity is through the roof. And if you pay attention to vinyl records at all, Taylor Swift is cornering the market on that because they basically end up being limited prints because every single vinyl company is making Taylor Swift albums day in and day out. And oh yeah, you wanted like 100,000 vinyl for your album? We'll get to it in like 4 months. So your fans can have it in like 6. I get why Taylor Swift was picked, especially the popularity and money aspect of it for the NFL. The thing that doesn't make sense to me is nobody that watched the Super Bowl for Taylor Swift was then going to watch the game for the game or the draft or any games next season. I know exactly what you're saying. I totally understand it. Ultimately, it doesn't really change anything because there's still an extremely large cross-section of people that watch the Super Bowl just for the commercials. Like the commercials are just as big as the game at this point. And to that end, so is the halftime show.
Well, and that's Doug's point. You just highlighted Doug's point because if more people tune in for the halftime show that aren't normally tuning in, the price value for those commercial spots go up. So you're drawing in more.
There's 3 circles to this Venn diagram, right?
Yep.
And they want to separate as much as possible. So I think that's just why we're never going to see a Metallica show, even though that would be obviously the best possible option. Also, it is definitely true what you said about vinyls. I pre-ordered a vinyl 2 months ago that's expected to arrive in January. So
exactly.
Jesus.
I can't stand Taylor Swift at the moment.
I will say she was a genius the way she wrote those contracts, though. Absolute business, Jesus.
She was
not. She was a teenager and got fucked. But she's successful now. She's able to fix those mistakes.
No.
She is circumventing the contracts with what she's doing now. The original contracts were so bad.
That's fair, but what was good about it is in the original contract, she got to keep the masters to her songs, which is why she can re-release them.
No,
If
Why the
she
fuck are we
didn't.
talking
That's why
about
she's
this?
re-recording everything too.
Why are we getting so far into this?
Either
Taylor
way,
Swift's making a shit ton of money, and that's why the NFL wanted her. The internet bullied her out of that spot. Now Rihanna's filling it. Let's please, for the love of God, stop talking about this.
either way,
Swift
Aaron
drama,
Donald.
man. What we got?
Okay. Either way, Aaron Donald has
What do you want me to do? I'm laughing.
literally as I start talking.
Yes.
He's already thinking
all
about
the
the same
time.
punchline we make every single time we bring up this stat.
All right, Aaron Donald has now registered sack number 100. It was against Kyler Murray, who is honestly notably hard to sack in the NFL, and frankly, he is the fastest defensive tackle to reach 100 sacks. Doug, go ahead and say your piece here. That's in the notes.
Can't believe he has 100 sacks because I only have one.
That wasn't the joke I thought you were going with. I thought you were going with the one that was underneath it.
What, that the Modern Warfare 2 beta came out, so Kyler Murray was tired as shit?
Skipped that on his study
So
time
there's
this
a
week.
sports
I
book
think-
on Twitter who is legitimately tracking when COD releases happen and like double XP weekends for Call of Duty and stuff. Kyler Murray is legitimately 3 and like 60 something in his career across college and NFL. When there's a Call of Duty something happening.
And you know what's worse? You know what's worse is now he has Marquise Brown on his team. Granted, Marquise Brown had an
Right.
excellent game, right? Let's not.
Yeah,
not
but
shit
he's
on
going to go
Hollywood
be a
Brown too
Twitch
much.
streamer too, so...
He already is. He has a channel.
Yeah, full-time, though. We're gonna drop
They
football
need
and
to
go
start-
full-time stream.
They need to start streaming together, watching some damn game film. That's what needs to happen.
Can we say the internet bullied the Cardinals into a bad season this year? Because they had everything in place. Like, dude, you got to study. You got to give me this much time.
The fact that his agent didn't say absolutely not, I'm not even giving this to him, is absurd.
Right. His
Like, the
agent
fact
was
Probably
like,
because
yeah,
his
that's fair.
agent goes, his agent went, that's probably okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
No video games? That checks.
Oh, God. Now, before we get into the reviews of the games for the week, I do want to cover a couple injuries. Mac Jones with a severe, quote-unquote, pretty severe high ankle sprain. Honestly, watching him limp off the field, it did not look good. Dalvin Cook decided that his shoulder didn't need to be in its socket again. They're not expecting that to be long-term. They're actually expecting, I think he's expected to play this week somehow. DeAndre Swift also said, hey, I want to join the shoulder injury train, so he's out for a bit.
Matt Campbell's actually already come out and said he's not expecting DeAndre Swift. They're not going to even try to bring him back till after the bye week, which is they have 2 games and then the bye, so 3 weeks. He'll be back in 4 weeks.
David Montgomery, I didn't see this one. Ben, did you catch this injury?
Yeah, I think it's just a high ankle sprain. He's still listed as day-to-day. I'm interested to see how this goes, and the Cowboys just got a block.
Yep.
It was not off the ass of the up man. It was a legitimate block.
It was also a field goal attempt. If he hit that off the ass of his fucking holder, I'd be impressed.
He would probably
Reach
be
it around
cut
and-
before he got back to the sideline.
Hit it with his heel real quick and then tell you to do
Gosh. Out of New York. Bad news for the Chargers got worse this week. Actually, yeah, Ben, did we finish covering David Montgomery?
Yeah, ankle day-to-day.
Okay.
I mean, that's about all it is. That's all I know anyway.
So bad news for the Chargers gets worse. So Justin Herbert is dealing with some rib injuries right now, playing through it, but this isn't going to help. Rashawn Slater, Pro Bowl tackle for the Chargers there, or All-Pro. He had some recognition with his name. Tore his bicep last night or yesterday, and he is out for the season. That's going to severely hamper that Chargers offensive line, and frankly, they didn't look all that good yesterday.
I mean, yeah, Chargers pretty bad.
Travis, I'm not taking the heat for your fantasy downfall. All right. Got Travis Pylon here on Facebook. Montgomery is glass and Ben sucks at giving fantasy advice. Look,
That last
not
part is
my fault.
definitely true. I don't know if David Montgomery's made out of glass. I would probably want to believe he's made out of flesh and blood and bones and like muscles and stuff. We don't know that for sure.
Cannot confirm nor deny.
It is possible he's made out of the same material Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley are, which is a form of glass, yes. But
Sean Slater was a Pro Bowler, by the way. Clear that up.
yeah, and he like the way they described his bicep injury was insane. Like it sounded like his biceps just exploded. Which
that's normally how those injuries happen, though. Bicep tears. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, yo, that was nasty.
And then finally, I don't have the lead on this one. I don't know who put it in here. Myles Garrett has been in a single car accident, non-life-threatening injuries to himself and a passenger. Doug, what do you got?
That's literally all we know right now. Myles Garrett is in the hospital, but he has been cleared as saying this is nothing serious, just something to watch out for, I guess. They might be precautious with him, might hold him out for a little bit. It is helpful for the Browns that this is their mini bye week, basically, with a Thursday night game this past Thursday. So, a little bit of extra time to have recovered and then hopefully recover from his car accident.
So if you are in an individual defensive player league like Bug and I are, this is definitely some news to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I would probably
say
sit Myles Garrett on this week.
I would say he's likely to miss. Like, sure, it was non-life-threatening, but his Porsche still flipped as they went off the side of the road. So,
yeah.
This is – I mean, he's an NFL athlete. I've seen athletic guys recover from worse shit a lot faster than I thought they could. That's a story for another time, though.
I mean, my papa got in a wreck and flipped a couple times and took him 2 months to recover, and he's still not fully right. So, anything's possible. I don't think Myles Garrett's that serious, or we would have heard a lot more by now. Put it that way, I guess. I'm from that area originally, so I know exactly where the accident happened from reading that report. But
you kind of like low-key hate that you know that shit too, though.
Mason
You're like,
Rudolph.
damn, I have almost fucking flipped this so many times too.
I never flipped it personally. That's not how I drive.
Mason Rudolph probably paying him back for smashing him in the head with the helmet. Thank you, Travis Pylon. That was a good one.
That checks.
All right, let's hop into some game reviews, starting with Pittsburgh and Cleveland here. The scoreline does not actually indicate how close this game actually was. Jacked up,
ended on a touchdown.
Yeah, and a touchdown with some jacked up lateral attempts and a Cleveland defensive touchdown. So that was a good sign if you had Cleveland on the
against the spread
on your fantasy roster and against the spread.
Yeah, the defense, for sure. Can we just say the Steelers offense, absolute booty trash?
Just like Denver's.
I don't know. Oh, it's slightly better than Denver's.
Better than Denver's. I'll give them that.
All I know,
Big Ben offense.
All I know is Steelers fans are ready to get rid of Matt Canada and Mitchell Trubisky, which I don't know why they were excited for him to begin with. But it is disgusting what they're stuck dealing with right now, because it's not like Mason Rudolph's a great option, and Mike Tomlin's pretty firm about not wanting to play Kenny Pickett, and I have to believe Mike Tomlin is not most other coaches in the NFL. I don't think Kenny Pickett sees the field unless Trubisky and Mason Rudolph both tear an ACL, and even then they might call Colin Kaepernick before they put Kenny Pickett on the field.
That's not going to happen for sure. There are several other options out there. maybe Jackson Erdman gets the call.
Oh, we'll talk about him at the end of the show, though. Don't worry.
But this is exactly what I expected out of Cleveland, though. Nick Chubb's going to carry them to a decent, respectable record until Deshaun Watson gets back. I mean, Jacoby Brissett played fine Amari Cooper looks way better than the only 5th-round pick they had to give up for him. But this is Nick Chubb's team right now.
It's going to be very interesting when Deshaun Watson comes back because there's the assumption that he's going to come back and be what he was 2 years ago. And I don't know if that's going to happen. Is he even allowed to practice with the team right now?
No.
Yes, he is because he was not suspended for the entire season.
I thought you weren't allowed to practice until your suspension was over. I thought you were devoid of all team activities.
Nope. If you're suspended for the entire season, you're kept out of the facility and everything. But I remember that being a point of the ruling was like, this is crazy because he's going to be allowed to practice still.
That defeats the entire purpose of the suspension. I thought even guys with 4 games for PEDs weren't allowed to partake in team activities.
I mean, I know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember that.
I do know during the summer, during training camp and preseason, he was allowed to, but I thought once week 1 hit, he was out.
I mean, you sound absolutely definitively correct on this.
I'm like 90%. I
believe that you're definitively correct, so I'm going to give it to you because I'm not convinced of myself. But also, I definitely did read that. So, anyway.
All right, let's move on to I don't even want to lie and say the most exciting game of the week.
We don't have the slides up, by the way. We should have our game picks on the screen.
Ooh.
Because none of us picked the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game.
Well, that's why I didn't have it up, because none of us picked it. So I was like, no worries. I got time to go look for other shit.
But the same slide has our next game. So
it does have our next game, doesn't it?
It does. All right, Ben, take your victory lap. Somehow you pulled it off on the back of a Jimmy G not knowing where the back of the end zone is. Dan Orlovsky, you are not alone, man. Jimmy G, welcome to the club.
Yes.
Oh, you mean like this?
Yes. Straight safetied himself. Yep.
It's fantastic. And Doug actually went and edited the pictures a little bit so you can see just how far away a Broncos defender is compared to how close the very nice Jared Allen was from Dan Orlovsky on that fateful Sunday.
I got to say, if Jared Allen were coming after me like that, I would self-safety myself too. But Garoppolo stepped out of the back of the end zone with nobody really that close to him. And on that play, if that were still in bounds, that would have been a pick six.
So the safety was the right play.
With his foot on the back line, he threw a pick six.
So the safety was the right play.
Yes. If those are your only two options, then yes.
The safety was the right play, kind of like one we're going to talk about later. But don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there in a little bit. And I want to bring this up before we get too far away from it. Deshaun Watson will be eligible to return to the Browns facility on October 10th and resume practicing November 14th. That's from Kevin Stefanski.
That's even weirder than what both of us said. So that's whatever.
Like the date, it just seems like random dates.
Yeah. You can return at some point and start practicing if you want
a little bit later.
But yeah,
it's fine.
Breaking this game down, it was an offensive snooze fest on both sides of the ball. Without that safety, it's a 10-9 game, which I believe would have in fact been scoregami. Just an ugly game all the way around.
I doubt 10-9 would be scoregami, for the record. That feels very normal. 10-11 is not normal.
All I know is we got one primetime game left, and it is the Cowboys leading the New York Football Giants 3-0 currently.
Because of a blocked field goal. This is disgusting.
This is almost as bad as what we watched last night. Thank you, NFL, for these exhilarating primetime games.
It's only the first quarter. It could turn itself around. That's what it's all
I've
about.
watched the Bears on primetime enough to know it's not going to fucking turn itself around. I know this isn't the Bears.
This is not the Bears.
When it starts off this bad, it rarely gets better.
We have some college football games later that would dispute that claim. Let's go.
That's college. That's not the NFL.
I guess that's fair. Our picks for games watch this weekend.
All the home teams taking it.
Yeah, so I took Bears Texans here because Lovie Smith was coming back to Chicago for the third time playing or coaching against the Bears. He was 0-2 going into this, and he was 0-3 going out. I said on the NFL carousel I thought the Bears would win by 10, and at one point they did lead by 10, so I wasn't completely wrong.
You just
But
ended
it
up
was
being wrong. So
yeah, it was a struggle fest there. Justin Fields even said as much. He has to play better. He played like he said he didn't want to say the A word, but he played like trash. That was or like ass.
so
That
all
was
right,
legit.
this is the best part of that. I put in the notes Fields played like ass, and then the next day I saw the quote. I don't want to say the A word,
Yep.
but like we have the same exact thought, Justin. You played like ass.
He did. And I'm not even going to get into it. That's a discussion for a different time. Roquan Smith, though, he makes a pick at the end of the game, and then the Bears are able to just kneel it out. The last offensive snap was Justin Fields running 2 yards to the left to put it on the hash mark where Cairo Santos wanted it with the wind blowing at Soldier Field. And the Bears win by a field goal. Didn't have to go to OT, and I have no clue how this game goes if it goes to OT. It really could have gone either way. Somehow the Bears are 2-1. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say with this.
What is this year? The Bears are kicking game-winning field goals.
I don't think that part's unusual. I think the part that's unusual is them not doinking off of goalposts.
That too.
And for the record, I was definitely rooting for a doink situation. Just because that would have been so great.
All right, I'm going to move us on, though, because, Doug, I have one better than a doink for you.
Yeah.
What a wild game in Miami.
All came down to this play.
Literally, like, I don't know if, like, he put enough force in there that if that went in the long ways, that might have gone straight up his butt. Like,
yeah, I bet he still feels that punt.
Oh, absolutely.
He's probably sitting on a donut this week. Let's be real.
I mean, what a absolutely wild fourth quarter though around. And then consider this, with the Bills having an incomplete pass on 4th and 10. It wasn't even 4th and goal. But it backed the Dolphins all the way up to their own end zone. They lost yardage still. Were way back in their own end zone trying to punt the ball. This happened, which caused the safety, which means the Bills had worse field position. I think this safety won the Dolphins the game.
I
agree.
I had this conversation with you the last night too, though, Doug. There's two ways you need to look at this because, yes, it seems like the safety helped them win the game, and I can see that on the surface. But then you take in the scoring differential. I think ultimately it washes out. The reason I say that is Morstead's known for punting long distances. I mean, he put them inside the 10 on the safety free punt. But at that point, they only needed a field goal. If this punt gets off, they're probably still beyond their 50 and they need a touchdown. So I think ultimately it does wash out. What this comes down to is Miami using up all of Buffalo's timeouts in that honestly trash heap of a drive to close out the game, and then tackling all of their guys in bounds almost for the rest of the game. I don't think Miami let them get out of bounds once on that last drive, and that's why Ken Dorsey was flipping his shit.
Yeah, that was fucking ridiculous. I'm actually a little disappointed we don't have that video clip. I don't know that I'm willing to say there was any type of conspiracy or anything, and I know I'm definitely not going to get this from John here, but the refs seemed pretty slow getting the ball back in, especially on that last play. They got tackled with, I want to say, 12 or 13 seconds left. Couldn't get a snap off.
I disagree. The offense wasn't lined up. They weren't waiting on the ball for more than a second. Legitimately, it took that much time for everyone to get into position in the first place. I really don't think that's the outcome of the game. I mean, it was slower than it could have been, theoretically. It wasn't so slow that it changed the outcome of the game.
I will say there was, if you watch it, you got to watch the video carefully after that play as Isaiah McKenzie's trying to run the ball back into the center. He does kind of get yoinked just to the side just a little bit by a Miami defensive player. That definitely slowed that process down.
I mean, that
don't know.
happens every single time.
Oh,
Everyone's trying to move quickly. So,
And that's what I'm going to say is I'm not going to go ahead and say it was intentional. I would guess it was, but I'm also not going to go ahead and say it was a dirty play or a penalty because it happens every game in that same situation.
right.
Now, what I will highlight is we're all enjoying the butt punt. Please tell me you guys have seen Tyreek's comments on the butt punt.
I saw Bob Menery's commentary.
Yeah, basically, no. So Tyreek came around and basically said, like, hey, next time he's expecting it, he'll catch it in his cheeks because he got strong cheeks. Was like a post-game quote from Tyreek Hill on Trent Sherfield.
You know, if Tyreek Hill said that about me, I would be very proud. That boy got strong cheeks.
I don't want to know why he knows that. John, I just want to say I'm disappointed you didn't even take the Dolphins. Like,
man, I wanted to. I struggle with this. I said it on the pod last week. Like, hey, if I was taking this against the spread, I would take Miami, but we're taking straight up. So I'm going to go with the Bills. I thought the Bills had a straight up. I mean, you look at the stats. The Bills held the ball for 40 minutes of that game. They outgained us 497 to 212. There is no reason Miami should have won this game.
Yeah, and then
but at the same time, when my analysis is telling me that this is the Bills game, I need to pick the Bills as much as it's against my favorite team. And that's where I was.
Do you really think there was a single ounce of my soul that thought the Bears would win last week?
Not at all.
Exactly. Like, it's different. It was against the Packers, and I'm sure if this was against the Patriots, you'd have picked the Dolphins, but still.
Well, yeah, especially with Mac Jones out.
I picked the Titans, though.
Hey, proud of you.
I did a thing.
Did you pick the Browns, too? Your other favorite?
We didn't pick
the no, we didn't pick that. That's right.
We don't pick Thursday
Would you
night
have
games.
picked the Browns?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Because it's his other favorite team, and he's a real fan.
Yeah, clearly. Fuck off, dipshits. Let's talk about this Raiders-Titans game, please.
It was also a trash game.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, both these teams. All right, so legitimately, the way you can describe this, the Titans played a good first half. The Raiders played a good second half. The Titans' first half was better than the Raiders' second half, ergo, Titans win the game. This was not a good performance by either squad necessarily. Also, the Raiders are the only team in the NFL now that is 0-3. I firmly believe that Bill Belichick did not name an offensive coordinator because he knew Josh McDaniels would be back in a couple of weeks.
That's gonna be my question coming out of this game. If you were the Raiders, are you in full-blown panic mode? I know it's only 3 weeks into the season, but this doesn't look good.
No, I'm not.
I know Raiders fans are getting fed up with Derek Carr. And it doesn't help that they just went and got his college teammate, and this is the result they're getting. I mean, this was a playoff team that legitimately had some Super Bowl aspirations, even after having to fire their head coach last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can go back down this road of should they have hired Rick Bisaccia, and I think the answer still for me is 100% yes.
Yes.
But this is the hand that they dealt themselves. And I have no clue how they get themselves out of this. Honestly, had the Titans not played like such ass last week, I'd have picked the Titans this week as well. I just thought surely this is a prime time for the Raiders to get back on the right track against the Titans this week. But ugh.
But the AFC South, that weakest division of football, is
dominated the AFC West.
Undefeated against the AFC West, which is the best division of football. So, NFL's fun this year.
I am just glad I wasn't in Kansas City on Sunday because I know I'd have ran into a Chiefs fan somewhere and they would not have been happy.
And you'd have made it worse. You'd have poured fuel on the fire.
Yeah. So that's a yes. So our pick'ems have not been going that well this year for the NFL, to be honest with you. Tug and I are still above 500, though. That counts for something. Bug, you are not above 500. Good sir.
I'm almost got 2 wins this week. Come on, Dallas.
I mean, it's the second quarter.
He says that
Hold
as
your
Daniel
horses.
Jones scrambles for a 1st down.
Hold your
Daniel
horses.
Jones scrambles for a 1st down.
Yeah, it happens. Daniel Jones runs. It's fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
Daniel Jones, Vanilla Vic, right there. That's what it's all about.
Hey, let's get to our fantasy sits and starts.
Okie dokie.
All right, I did pretty good this week, at least on the wide receiver side of things. DJ Moore, not a good game, just all the way across, not a good game.
I don't even know if you can have him on your roster at all at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at dropping him. You can't even hope to trade him at this point. Like, if you have DJ, drop him out. Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, it's not the games we had been seeing from him, but it's a solid game. It's a solid wide receiver 2 or a flex position game.
Especially if you're playing PPR.
Look, he might be going up because without DeAndre Swift, he's already wide receiver 1 in Detroit right now.
Yep.
His numbers might skyrocket. Who knows?
The only thing we need to sit and monitor when this comes up is how Jameson Williams gets worked in when he comes back. So that's going to be a situation monitor too. But for now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely your guy. He started for me all 3 weeks, and I am a pleased fantasy manager right now.
Running backs?
I did not so good this week. Javonte Williams, if you're in a PPR league, it was probably a bad sit. Again, it would have been a flex start for you. He's not going to be your running back 1 or your running back 2 this week with those numbers. But in PPR league, he could have been a solid flex. Joe Mixon, I let everyone down. Cincinnati also doesn't look like what we expected them to be. Joe Burrow keeps getting sacked, and until those issues get resolved,
They look like what I expected them to be. Suck it, Bengals fans.
Hey, I had Javonte Williams as my number 2 running back this week because I'm in a 14-man league, and my situation was just that bad. I don't know why. The thought of playing Khalil Herbert crossed my mind earlier in the week, and I was like, nah, he's probably not going to get a ton of touches. And then lo and behold, David Montgomery sprains his ankle, and I've got 25 points staring me in the face on my bench.
So, question: do we call this 2-2 on the week for fantasy? I guess are your picks there?
I would say so.
I think that's fair.
All right, 2-2.
So you were 8-4 on the season, which doubling up.
We combined. Ben had 2 of those. Ben had 2 of those picks originally.
I know.
We're probably just gonna have to double them up anyway.
But that's fair. That's fair. Well, let's go ahead and jump to college news, which is my favorite part of the show. Get out of here, NFL bull shenanigans. It's time for the real sport that we talk about here. And Tug's leaving. I made him mad.
He has to go poop.
Anyway, so the AP top 25, the top 5 stayed the same. So the rest of it changed significantly. We have a top 10 Kentucky, a top 10 Tennessee. Kansas is not ranked.
That is unfortunate.
Fucking horseshit.
Kansas State is ranked. Syracuse is not ranked. Minnesota barely is, even though they've played much better than barely being in the top 25. All sorts of weirdness to sort out yet. Next week, we will have the top 10 of the BDT trench ratings in the show as well. Or as soon as next week. I won't be here at some point in October, so we'll have to navigate that. But I think it'll be very different than the AP poll. Let's just put that out there. Everyone kind of agrees this year that the AP poll is kind of trash.
The AP poll is starting to make it seem like they're rigging the college football playoff is really what it's coming down to. They're stiff-arming out teams that are earning their way in just by voting on teams that people know.
I mean, let's be real. The college football playoff panel, when they make their picks, they look at the AP poll very heavily, regardless of whatever bullshit line they put out. There's very rarely any differences between the AP and the college football playoff poll. And to the same degree, there's barely ever any differences between the coaches poll and the AP poll, right? I mean, nobody has an original thought when it comes to this, and it's all about how can we make as much money as possible for ourselves.
Well, that's not true. There is one person I know that had an original thought, and he has made it into being. And they should follow us and subscribe to us on Patreon so they can see these beautiful rankings.
See, I did something like that. It was called the BCS Bowl, and everybody hated it because there was no human element. And now people hate the human element. So we're never going to be fucking right. But at least you know that we're unbiased in our takes on the poll.
I was going to say, you can tell I'm unbiased in mine. I picked Buffalo to win.
Anyway, polls. So Boise State lost pretty badly. That game was on Friday night. And then the next day, they fired their offensive coordinator. Their interim offensive coordinator is former NFL head coach, retired Dirk Cutter. He used to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and retired from football and then was like, I'll come help out Boise State. I live in Idaho now. Why not? It'd be fun. And then now he's interim offensive coordinator. So back to coach Dirk Cutter. But their starting quarterback, Hank Bachmeier, has entered the transfer portal. And you might be saying, hey, didn't you guys have a story about how there are portal windows effective immediately? This is that one exception where he just had his coach get fired. His offensive coordinator counts for that, and he is eligible to enter the transfer portal immediately. And he has chosen to do so. Boise State is in a mess right now. Air Force should win in because it's not Wyoming.
You're not wrong. I'm just upset that I need to rely on Wyoming to drop 2 games in the Mountain West, and their schedule looks favorable.
They'll drop 3-4 games in the Mountain West, and
I hate Wyoming.
Who do you hate more? Coaches, do you hate Wyoming more, or do you hate Troy Calhoun more?
Ooh.
Good question.
Answer this question very fucking carefully.
Think about that while I read off this next story. Georgia Tech has also fired their head coach, Jeff Collins, and as of this morning, fired their athletic director as well, Todd Stansbury. Their interim head coach is Brent Key. He was the associate coach, run game coordinator / offensive line coach for Georgia Tech. Played on the offensive line at Georgia Tech in the 90s to 2000. Went straight into coaching, was at UCF for a long time before becoming the offensive line coach at Alabama for 3 years, and then taking the associate head coach / offensive line job at his alma mater. So now interim head coach, Brent Key, that kind of sucks for you because you're probably not going to get considered for the full-time thing, even though this is definitely a job that you would want.
But you might get a head coaching job somewhere else.
That is possible. We'll
Isn't
see what happens
made,
here.
Extra awkward by the fact that Todd Stansbury released a massive statement about how the team, they were going to make sure the team got better and all this, or was that just Georgia Tech in general? I don't remember who put it out. Or was it the school president?
It
Colorado. That's almost funnier.
Yeah.
Both of these teams are so bad that I think that Georgia Tech put out a statement too.
And Colorado has yet to fire their coach, and all the fans are mad about it. So
Ben,
probably after seeing what Georgia Tech's done.
Ben, I can make you real excited real quick. Tony Pollard just ripped off like a 45, 50-yard run.
Pretty sure he's in one of my dynasty leagues.
Right up the gut.
But it is also 3-3, so you haven't won shit yet. Suck it, Ben. Back to the question, though. Do you hate Troy Calhoun or Wyoming more?
That's my stance on Troy Calhoun. I actually sat down, Doug, and we've had a good conversation on this. I don't know. I think I hate losing in Wyoming more. Like, I hate losing in Wyoming more than anything right now. The only thing that would come close to it is losing to Army and Navy, but that doesn't happen near as consistently.
So, all right, question. If Troy Calhoun started beating Wyoming every year, would you like him?
No, and you know why behind it. All right. Because Ben, you weren't here for this conversation. Let me fill everyone in. Yes, Troy Calhoun is the winningest coach in Air Force history.
Second. I will correct you.
Okay.
I've said it wrong before.
You've said it wrong so many times that it's got me thinking it now too. Either way,
He's
up there.
Pass Fisher to Berry though.
Yeah, he should.
Yes, he's got the wins. My issue comes down into these close games. And I have heard reports from players and guys on the coaching staff that this happens routinely at Air Force. You get down, you're coming into half, and you don't take a shot. What we don't hear, and everyone's going to sit there and go, Air Force isn't built to take shots, and you're right. But what we don't hear about standard is the offensive coordinator is in the headset saying, hey, run this play, let's take a shot. And Troy Calhoun goes, no, let's just knee it out. For instance, in that Wyoming game, he called a timeout so Wyoming could punt it. He ran one play and walked to the locker room. Why even call the timeout? Right?
I would
so
say
my issue,
the lack of trust with his coaching staff,
and that's what it is.
Not respecting his players enough to, actually call plays that they are ready for and prepared for. That's kind of weird to me. That's kind of sus. So I kind of get it now. On the same level, he wins a lot of games for you. So it's still a tough conversation.
No, it absolutely is a tough conversation, which is why I enjoy winning. I enjoy winning bowl games. I like that Air Force is constantly relevant in the Mountain West. But I need him, or I need them to take that next step, right? I need them to piece together a Mountain West. We've had teams that have been built to compete in the Mountain West before, and we just drop the ball. Literally, Sometimes it's a fumble.
Yeah, but you weren't going to beat that San Diego State team that one year. So
No, we weren't.
No,
and every other year we've had a shot. It's been Wyoming. Fucking assholes.
It is now 6-3 Cowboys.
I just want to say I've had to deal with Josh Allen for about the past 8 years.
It's good. Let that hate flow through you.
Oh, it's flowing.
But yeah, back to Georgia Tech for a second. I really don't know who their options are going to be. I did see that Bill O'Brien has already named as a candidate, which is unusual. You don't normally
I've got
name
one
your
for
candidates.
Herm Edwards.
I've got one for him. They already run the triple option. Let's just bring in Troy.
If they're going to do that, I would say they're probably going to look for Jamie Chadwell instead, who runs a modified triple option. That they would probably like more.
I think the most interesting thing here is that Georgia Tech's been going away from the triple option, and they aren't happy with it because it's not happening fast enough. I mean,
right.
I could go on about this for a few hours. I'm not going to. I almost did it earlier. I don't get the anger here. It's not like Georgia Tech has even been close to a conference championship in 5 or 6 years, even with the triple options. I don't know what they're getting at here. I don't.
They've been a lot more competitive over like 5 years ago. They were a lot more competitive than they are right now.
I would think though, honestly, the fact that Georgia State is starting to surpass them a little bit is probably why. You've got another school in town.
Right, Georgia State and Georgia Southern have had better seasons than Georgia Tech recently.
So. That actually brings up a very interesting candidate.
Clay Helton.
The
one I have seen more likely is actually Georgia's offensive coordinator, which I don't remember his name at the moment, but he sounds like a very likely candidate, actually.
What about Lance Leipold? He's been on the hook for just about every starting job that's popped up.
I mean,
throw his name in there too. Why not?
Here's the thinking with Leipold. All right, the reason you would leave a 12 job is to go to a job that has more resources. Those jobs are in the Big Ten and the SEC. Georgia Tech is not in the Big Ten or the SEC. So there's no reason to leave the Big 12, the bottom of the Big 12 for the bottom of the ACC. That's not a promotion. Leipold shouldn't do that. I am seeing a lot of heat that it may be Baylor's Dave Aranda taking that Nebraska job, which sounds like a step down because Baylor is good at the moment, but Nebraska has a lot more money to put in their football program than Baylor does and will for the foreseeable future, thanks to the Big Ten's media contracts. that's become a very recent development in Nebraska's coaching search. It's been very plausible that Dave Aranda is your next head coach up there, which would be a fantastic hire. I think that's one of the best hires you could have at Nebraska, just because of that defense. I mean, We've seen LSU's national championship team, what Baylor's done the last 2 years. Those have been good defenses. And if you can piece together some actual recruiting at Nebraska and get some defensive play in the Big Ten, you're going to be successful. So that happened today. I found out about that talk today. Also, head coaching talk today in the Big Ten. Donors for Wisconsin don't like Paul Chryst anymore. That's wild.
Jesus Christ.
I saw
terrible.
that one coming a mile away. I knew you were going to do it, and I'm still not excited about it.
So I would say this is Nebraska firing Bo Pelini or Frank Solich. If they were to fire Paul Chryst, Wisconsin, you don't lose the guy who's winning you 9 games a year, 8 at minimum a year, just because you think you should be winning 10 when you have no reason to think that you can, right? It's like they are recruiting at a level that Wisconsin really hasn't been able to in the past. I mean, Barry Alvarez has been the peak of Wisconsin football. Why are you going to throw that away for an external guy who doesn't understand your culture? Because apparently they're talking, they wouldn't even promote their defensive coordinator, Jim Leonard, who's been getting all the external love as a potential head coaching candidate. They would be in line for Lance Leopold if Dave Aranda works out to Nebraska. So it's a wild time in the Big Ten as everyone's trying to catch up to the Big Ten East. So,
and failing to do so.
Head coaching moves as a result. But yeah, anyway, that's a lot of news talk for actually not a lot of news in college football this week. So let's just move on. Let's talk about some games.
We got this too.
Yeah, this is actually, it might have been good to save this for next show because this is what Ole Miss will be wearing in their ranked matchup this coming Saturday.
We'll get more
14,
into our
I think Ole Miss against number 8 now, Kentucky.
We'll get into our utter disdain for this helmet later. So think of all your memes and mean and rude comments, and be ready to throw them in the chat here on Thursday.
I mean, I don't understand.
Hold on, go back real quick. I need somebody out there who's really good with like photo editing and colors to make all of the white yellow.
No.
Just
stop
so we can
stop right now. Move on.
Old piss.
Ranked.
Thank you.
Ranked. Clemson at Wake Forest. We almost memed ourselves. We only didn't because I pointed out we were about to meme ourselves. And Ben was like, "Yeah, I'll take Wake Forest."
I'm just gonna stick this out there.
I would have. So I don't blame you because this was legitimately going into the weekend. I thought this was going to be a great matchup, and it was double overtime. So
it comes down to me just liking Sam Hartman more than I like DJ. I mean, that's really all it is.
Doesn't everyone in the world?
I'm just gonna go out there and say I'm pretty sure we are 0 for when we all pick together. So games we think are locks are absolutely not locks.
I mean, I don't think we thought Arkansas was guaranteed to beat Texas A&M.
No, that's a unique one, but it still adds to the data point.
And they probably should have won since it hit the top of the goalpost. Anyway, Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee has not beaten Florida very consistently in a long time, I would say.
I think it was 18 years since they last beat Florida.
No, that's not true. They've beaten them, I think, twice in the
like
last
2
18
years
years
ago.
or something like that.
I think they beat them like 2 years ago. I'm not even.
Was this their first? Was this their first one in the swamp in 18? Or no, because they were at Neyland.
This is at Neyland. Yeah.
the point is Tennessee doesn't win against Florida very often anymore, and they did in pretty exciting fashion. Not going to lie, 38-33 sounds a lot closer than this game was. Felt like Tennessee was the much better team all game. And at the same time, honestly, Tennessee played a little bit sloppy. So there are definitely things to improve on here, but we do have a top 10 Volunteers team now, which I know Ben's a big fan of. We no longer have a top 10 Arkansas team, which we are all very sad about.
Facts.
That game was very close.
I still don't understand how that kick's not good. If it sails over the upright directly, it's a good kick. But if it bounces off and it's not, because the way that ball bounced over, it went through the uprights. So I
am very tempted to see in college football, we change the rule to be the goalposts are like the foul poles. If you can hit in between them or hit them, it's good. Because otherwise, college kickers will continue to ruin games forever.
I don't want all doinks to be good.
How did it happen twice in the same week is what I really want to know.
Right.
Like, very carefully and with smiles on the defense.
And the other fucking crazy thing about this game was played at AT&T Stadium. So the poles were about 20 fucking feet higher than they were at Wyoming? Is that where the other one happened? Like,
so Wyoming's wasn't this week. That was Tulsa, Wyoming. Wyoming played BYU this week and got their shit kicked.
Yeah.
But either way, yes, you're right.
Would have been funny if BYU lost to Wyoming. We hate both of them immensely.
I hate Wyoming.
But yeah, honestly, good matchups this week in FBS. Surprisingly, that was our first ranked versus ranked matchup at noon. Was Clemson Wake Forest. I'm sure we'll get a lot more of that as we get deeper into conference play. As you can see, all these were conference games. So more good games spread throughout the day. But we also had a lot of ranked versus ranked in the FCS. So we had to pick some of those as well.
I did good on this one.
South Dakota State came out hot, 14-0. Then it was 14-14. And then it was 28-14 South Dakota State. Missouri State played very well in the third quarter, and that was the only time they played well, apparently. So, yeah, Missouri State is no longer tied for number 4. Montana State is in sole possession of number 4 now after narrowly beating Eastern Washington. This was a very good game. Ended up being 38-35 for Montana State.
I'm just happy I got another one right.
Has any notes because I know you're all waiting for me to say this next one. Eastern Kentucky did lose to y'all's favorite team for some reason. Literally, F yourselves.
I cannot get over Colonel Sanders on my screen right now. Like, you keep saying he's not.
It is not Colonel Sanders. It is just the Colonel.
It's Colonel Sanders' cousin, Lieutenant Colonel Sanders.
He looks like Colonel Sanders.
I will accept Lieutenant Colonel Sanders.
You got Governor Austin P over there, too. I mean, it's just... What are we doing in the FCS here, man? Like, this is disgusting.
I don't know.
Things. That's what we're doing.
Let's go P.
Well, all right. So Austin P did win this game, 31-20. It was a huge comeback. I think it was 20-3 at one point, and then Austin P came roaring back in the second half. I legitimately thought this was going swimmingly for me, and then fucking Austin P. I hate them so much.
Who do you hate more, Austin P or Michigan?
Don't ask me that. That's a dumb question. I just don't like Austin P.
He hates Austin P more. It's okay.
One other FCS game that's not on this slide that we have to mention. Stephen F. Austin came out.
Oh my God.
Why did we not put this slide up?
They very nearly won 100-0. They intentionally missed the 2-point conversion on the last scoring play of the game. to make it 98-0, which seems like such a bigger dick move than just making
That-
100.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is.
Kneeling on that 2-point conversion is worse than scoring 98 points and not allowing your opponent to score anything.
Right.
Like, did they call in local high school kids in the second half? Like, what in the fuck happened here?
I truly am not certain what happened that Stephen F. Austin would look this good. Warner, for their part, the losers in this case, 98-0. Somebody has to be that nothing. Warner Royals for you. They are a Division II team who FCS schools are allowed to play one of those a year. And Warner literally took the bus to Stephen F. Austin and took the bus right back. That is a at least 17-hour bus ride. So they were not ready to play. Put it that way.
It's disgusting.
I wonder how much Stephen F. Austin told them or paid them to do that.
I don't want to know because no amount of money is good enough to be beaten 98-0. That is disturbing. I will say, for Stephen F. Austin's part, they did take their quarterback out after like 4 touchdowns.
Dude,
They
their
scored a
backup's
lot
going to be
more than
hitting the transfer portal here soon. Jesus.
They had 4 different players throw touchdown passes,
God damn.
and
I was not one of them.
Ben, to answer your question, yes, they went and found local high school JV players to fucking finish this game out. Like,
and they had
Gross.
all players with rushing touchdowns, so they were throwing the ball all up and down the field all the game. 2 rushing touchdowns on this game.
Jesus.
And it was 98-0. So,
All right, let's get on to some good games.
Definitely not a ranked versus ranked matchup. Just something we had to talk about. Our picks for games to watch.
All picked great games.
Yes, yes, we did. Start us off, Bug.
Oh, man. I love everything about this. I love that Texas loses. I love that Bijan Robinson, the backbone of this team, fumbles to start OT. And then Texas Tech, all they have to do is kick a field goal to win this baby. What I hate is that they then got fined by the Big 12. What was it? $200,000 for the students storming the field. Obscene. And all I can think is everybody was throwing the horns down as they rushed onto the field, so that's got to be it. Legitimately, though, there is a video of Overshown getting pushed.
Yeah.
And that probably, if that video doesn't surface, I don't think the fine is $200,000. But seeing fans make physical contact with an opposing player definitely doesn't help. I love everything about this, though. I love everything about Texas Tech.
I will say, I know the Big 12 is not the SEC, but the SEC's standard fine for first offense for storming the field is like $250, so that's right on par with storming the field issues.
That's so dumb.
It is. It is
college football.
So here's the thing. I get it in basketball because what happens with basketball is it always ends up in a dog pile. And first of all, these guys are on hard wood,
right? And
none of them have pads on, right?
Right.
That's there. I mean, guys have gotten hurt in those piles before, famously a couple times. In football, like all everybody wants to do is get in a massive huddle and jump around and maybe tear down the goalpost, but there's so many people there, they come down at like half a mile per hour. So, I mean, if that's the most dangerous thing that happens when you're storming the field in a football game, I don't know. I feel like that is such a quintessential part of college football. It is absolutely ridiculous that we're fining teams for this, especially in a big ranked, facing off against a ranked opponent like this. I get it. This isn't a huge rivalry, especially from the UT side of things. But for Texas Tech, this is huge. It's a team that's wanted to be one of the top programs in the Big 12. This is a team that's wanted to turn that corner for several years. Are they finally doing it? I don't know, but this is definitely a good step one.
It's definitely a good step one. This is actually the second time in Texas Tech history that a head coach for the Red Raiders has won their first game against the University of Texas. So Joe McGuire is definitely the right hire so far, it looks like.
So I will say this, because Ben brought up tearing down the goalposts. I still enjoy the story, and I know I only learned it last week. I still enjoy the story that when App State beat Michigan, not only did they tear down the goalposts, they delivered them to the chancellor's doorstep. Like,
That is a fundamental right as an American.
that's what I'm saying, man.
We should be able to do that without being fined.
Every time anybody beats Michigan, that should be the standard, not the exception.
So Bijan Robinson fumbled in overtime. This was his 4th fumble in college football. 300 something carries at least, maybe 400 carries. 4th fumble ever. His coach made him carry a football around campus after this fumble. Legitimately, there was a student tried to knock the ball out and almost got assaulted. So
I approve of these methods.
I think it's a little bit over the top, personally, considering that's not really an issue and it was a freak accident. Fumbles do happen.
Don't drop my baby sister. We'll be okay.
It's Texas football, man. I don't know what else to say about that.
I mean, if it were an Ohio State player, I would want them publicly executed instead of having to carry a football around. So
Jesus Christ.
It's if Texas cares that much about football, they would have actually set up a guillotine on campus. But they didn't do that, and so I think Texas doesn't care.
Let's get on to your game.
I had James Madison at Appalachian State this week. For some reason, JMU has just come out extremely dominant. What was it, 47-7 week 1 against the Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee. That same Middle Tennessee State team just beat the Miami Hurricanes.
In Miami.
The Miami is 3 all time against Middle Tennessee State, which is beautiful.
By the transitive property, JMU is better than Miami.
Absolutely.
I mean, they probably are legitimately better than Miami, too. Like, let's not even throw the transitive property in here.
So JMU coming into this game is their first Sun Belt game ever as a member of the conference. And they go down 28-3 to start this thing off. Appalachian State is up big. And then JMU came all the way back. This was a 32-28 final score. App State didn't score after the second quarter. Like, JMU shut them down. And for everyone saying that this is a transfer job, you know, all the new rules make this so much easier. There are only 2 starters on James Madison's team that were FBS transfers. So this is completely James Madison being 100% ready for this move.
Can I throw this out here too? It's absolute dog shit that they will not allow JMU to play in a bowl game this year.
Glad you said it, because I was. Like, they have a legit chance to be the winners of the Sun Belt, and they're not even allowed to compete in the conference championship game.
Right.
Like, it's not even just bowl game. They have a worse punishment than LSU for improving themselves.
Don't fucking get me started on that. I would almost go and say that the Patriot League, that's where they came from, right?
Colonial.
CAA, whatever. I would almost go and say, you know what they did to them on their way out was justifiable because they're leaving and they're already one of the best FCS teams in the country anyway. Let's try and get another team into the playoff this year because they're a shoo-in without the conference championship title, right?
I mean,
I
don't like it, but I understand it, I guess.
I get it on the other side. I don't. Right. Why are we punishing a team that moved up? That doesn't make any sense.
That's it.
Right. I have no idea. So JMU, assuming they will become bowl eligible, which is looking like they will, they'll apply for a waiver. Last 2 times a waiver has been applied for to this rule. It has been denied, most recently Appalachian State. So, yeah, JMU will be able to play in a bowl game this year, even though they will have definitely earned that right.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see JMU just keep practicing, and then take on the FCS champion in an exhibition match. I would love for that to somehow work out. I doubt it will.
Or JMU Jackson State.
I would love that too.
Just randomly for no reason.
I would love that.
Jackson State, by the way, first time they're in the FCS top 10 since 1997. Deion Sanders cooking up something special down there.
And they still won't play in the playoffs, so I don't.
Right.
That would be. I think that would even be adequate. If JMU is bowl eligible and gets denied, have them play the winner of the Celebration Bowl. I think that would probably be more likely to happen.
It'd be fun watching JMU destroy South Carolina State.
You're not wrong.
Because what is it? The SWAC, they cannot win that game for whatever
Right.
fucking reason. I don't get it.
Our last game that we picked, this was also a fantastic one. What do you got, Tug?
Kansas is a football school. What else is there to say? Kansas is 4-0 for the first time since the early 2000s. They did it in decisive fashion.
2009.
I thought it was there. Okay. Either way, they're looking like a solid team all the way through. Doug, we've got them up in our rankings, don't we? I don't want to give the number away, but they're showing something.
I mean, preliminary BDT trench ratings have them well within the top 25.
Like,
put it that way. And they received like a couple of votes. It's disgraceful. The AP poll sucks.
Duke did. What's up, Ben? What you got?
Yeah, I just want to say, I picked Duke because I respect the ACC a lot more as a conference. Memphis has played both Duke and Kansas in the past 10 years, and Duke, on the whole, has just looked like a better program the past several years. I watched this game. This is one of the only games I watched. I did some other things on Saturday, had a lot of fun, but Kansas was, John, you already said it, they were dominant in this one. It wasn't even close, and they brought up the quarterback. I can't remember his name.
It's on here. Jalen Daniels. He might be a dark horse for the Heisman. Here's the thing. He's been playing quarterback at Kansas for a while. He's taken his lumps and he has grown so much for it. He is leading this Jayhawks team. I mean, we talked saying game day should have gone here because we were expecting such a great game. Legitimately, Duke at times did not look like they belonged on the field with Kansas. And that is a statement I never thought I would say about Kansas against any other Power 5 football team. Yep.
I know.
I
know, definitely. With your guys' support, I want to say that we go ahead and name Jalen Daniels the winner of the September Heisman. Definitively.
Oh, absolutely.
Approved.
Absolutely.
Look, anybody that can lead Kansas to a 4-0 start deserves to be the September Heisman, okay? And Lance Leopold is our, at least for me, he's my September coach of the month.
So, stats for this one game. Jalen Daniels went 19 of 23. Already insane. 324 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He also carried the ball 11 times for 83 yards and a rushing touchdown. Jalen Daniels accounted for 5 touchdowns in this game. All 5 touchdowns that Kansas scored were Jalen Daniels. Wow. So as you can see, comes on the screen, we did a lot better. We've been doing a lot better in college than we have in the NFL.
I'm catching up to you there, bud.
Bug is closing in on 500. You're going to get there. I believe in you. No,
it goes this way.
Oh yeah. See, but I didn't pick Texas, so it's fine.
That's a fine.
Exactly.
That's a fine.
Don't find us Big 12. Or sorry, Longhorn Network.
And yeah, I've been staying exactly 2 wins above Tug for 2 weeks now. So I'm trying to maintain the lead. Barely. But we will have a bunch more games to pick for you Thursday. It's going to be another wild week of college football. I'm very excited for it. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and talk about some of the prospects that we previewed in last episode. Starting with running back Frank Gore Jr. Obviously, for obvious reasons, he's getting a lot of love here. He did not play well. Just gonna throw that out there. Also, I said I didn't expect Southern Miss to win this game. They're playing a much better Tulane team. Tulane has a great pass defense. The run defense is a little bit suspect. This might be a game he can go off. Everything I said was 100% incorrect. Southern Miss won the game by throwing the ball a lot, and Frank Gore Jr. was so ineffective. It was unreal. I'm going to say I want to see him stay in school for another year, which he has another year of eligibility, so totally fine.
Thanks, COVID.
I don't think he comes out into the draft this season. I don't see him being draftable right now.
I just hope his Wonderlic score is better than his dad's.
It's not fucking hard. He just has to take the test.
Right. It's a show up for the test, put his name on the top. That's already more points than his dad scored.
Frank run ball. Frank go end zone.
And he did it for like 20 years. So good for him.
He did.
The other prospect that I highlighted last episode was Drew Sanders, the Alabama transfer, now starting for the University of Arkansas, has been putting together a very quality season to this point. I said, needs to just keep it up. Do exactly what he's been doing against Texas A&M. Arkansas is going to win this game. He did not do what he's been doing, and they did not win this game. See how that works?
They should have.
So he had 5.5 sacks going into this game. He now has
Which is
6 sacks
more
on the
than you
season.
have.
So while that is 5 more sacks than any of us have, and 2 more sacks than this show combined, that is still not enough to beat Texas A&M. He need at least one more there. He had no forced turnovers this week. I was really hoping to see that out of him. At the same time, I don't think this played him out of a potential day 2 pick, maybe even sneaking into day 1. He has played very impressively so far, and there's a lot of season left for him. If he can put together some better games, maybe we just say burn the Texas A&M tape. That happens from time to time. It's one game. At the same time, this was not good. So we'll see what happens. I still like Drew Sanders. Based on everything I've seen from him this week.
Have you
And
seen
that happens?
I saw something breaking down Will Anderson, like pre-snap, just everything that's wrong with his stance and positioning towards the line.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's going to start playing into his draft prospect and really just how he's going to do this season? Because he has been a lot quieter than he was last year.
Kind of true. Like on the stat sheet, definitely quieter. He's shown up in huge moments. Like, for example, one of the interception. I think it was a pick 6. So, I don't know. I think there are 2 different styles of edge rusher that are draftable. There's either the athletic freak of nature that nobody can deny. He'll figure out a way to beat you. Or there's the technician who does everything perfectly and will outsmart you on the field. If you can find the balance of those 2 things, you have a number 1 overall pick on your hand 10 times out of 10, and nobody will argue. At the same time, one of those other 2 options can be a very high draft pick very easily. All it takes is just wowing everybody with that one trait. So like Trayvon Walker didn't necessarily have all those eye-popping stats. He was a very, very athletic defense. Kayvon had a lot of tools in his toolbox. Showed potential to be a freak athlete. Didn't necessarily show that in any combine setting or anything like that. Was taken for his technical ability. I think we're at the point where Will Anderson will be drafted very high, almost purely based on that athleticism and finding a way to win every play, even though he doesn't line up correctly. That's definitely a thing that's true. I would also say Micah Parsons doesn't line up correctly half the time, quote unquote correctly. He lines up well enough to beat the offense, which is the whole point of playing defense. So Yeah, I think Will Anderson's still a fantastic player. If I had the number 1 overall pick right now, it's still down to either a quarterback or Will Anderson. And I don't know that it's close.
I'm
right
sorry.
now.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. I realized after it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Ooh." I just kind of threw that one out of left field.
That's a whole conversation.
Yeah, we started talking about Alabama defensive players, and it immediately just popped in my head. So,
former Alabama defensive players.
It's also 6'3" at halftime. Just suck. You were
right. I mean, this is weird. We actually have a non-NFL pro news segment real quick.
Yeah,
kind of.
First time in a hot minute. What do you got?
Well, we talked about Jackson Erdman a little bit earlier in the show, and if you remember, he won the first ever People's Championship with the then Wild Aces, now should have been Stars in the FCF. And then he did not return to the FCF this season because
he's a future Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback.
I would not be surprised if he doesn't get a practice squad call, or if we see him in the XFL or USFL next year, because he is the ELF, the ELF, European League Football Champion. He led the Vienna Vikings to a 27-15 victory over the Hamburg Steelers in the championship game over there. I mean, this is awesome. I don't know what the ceiling for this guy is. I mean, it's he got the pro day with Minnesota.
Everywhere.
He does. He got the pro day with Minnesota after everything got so fucking messed up with COVID that there was no combine. He was a D3 guy, but he had that success in the FCF. Minnesota was like, hey, come to our pro day. And now he's had success in 100-yard football. Granted, it's Europe. It's in Europe. There are other professional leagues in America now. Man,
you'll need to keep bumping up the level of competition. I would expect an XFL, USFL in his near future.
Yeah, I would be behind whatever XFL team he ends up on. That's
100%.
My formula the past few times of what team I'm going to back. Obviously, the AAF had a team in Memphis that was easy. My formula has been what team has the most Memphis players. This time it's very clear what team has Jackson Erdman. That's who I'm getting behind.
The only of these non-NFL pro teams that I've truly felt like I've been an actual fan of is the DC Defenders because of Cardell Jones.
They were fun as shit to watch too. The XFL was so much fun to watch. Oh my god!
Can't wait for the XFL to come back. Honestly, legitimately, that's almost even more than the FCF. I'm excited for the XFL to come back. I want it to be good. I hope it's good.
And the FCF has announced that they will be back in the spring. Fan-controlled hoops is kicking off. Fan-controlled sports enterprises is they've done a lot of rebranding. They're moving in a very positive direction. So if you're a fan of the FCF, I don't think it's going anywhere, at least for the foreseeable future. Man, we're in the depths of the NFL and college football season. So I try not to bring anything up about these leagues unless it's something big, like, I don't know, a former player winning a championship somewhere else. But man,
but we track Jackson Erdman in this house. We fan dirty, dude.
100%.
So no bracket time this week. We just finished up the Power 5 stadium bracket. I blanked on the word stadium for a second because I'm a dumbass. But if you missed that episode, go check it out. It was some good conversation. And thank you to everyone who voted in those polls along the way. No bracket time this week. Nothing this week for you guys to vote on, actually, because we are working on something that we will definitely be talking about next week. So stay tuned for something new to be taking this spot of the show. I'm just going to say it's not a bracket. It's something different that we will need your votes for on Twitter. Stay tuned, folks. And speaking of the Twitter and all the social medias, I think it's time to go ahead and start shouting out all those links and wrapping things up.
See, Bug's back, so we didn't forget to have him scrolling for like 80% of the episode, like I have been doing. So they are down there at the bottom of our screen. I will shout them out for our audio listeners. Patreon.com/BDTfootball, Twitter.com/BDTfootball, Facebook.com/BDTfootball. Instagram.com/BDT_football, BDTfootball.com, and mailbox at BDT Football. Along with all of these links, I will also link our YouTube in the description below. It is way too jumbled to shout out right now.
Subscribers.
Yeah.
So we can change the
I-
URL.
Hit the bell.
I think we forgot the most important one for our audio listeners. If you want to join us live, find us on Facebook, or prefer you go to twitch.tv/big dudes in the trenches, all one word there. I don't know, man. I'm excited. I'm glad to be back. Missed doing this. I can't decide if I want to go on a rant here for a minute or if I want to go with a Snapple fact. Which do you guys want?
It's Snapple Fact Monday.
Why not both?
So I've alluded to it a few times. Just about fan bases in general. I know I talked to you guys a little bit about it in the chat. And it is just getting like I am almost both my teams won this week, and I feel like both of them lost. It is that fucking miserable on different message boards and fan pages between the Bears and Memphis. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. If you're
welcome to fans of a thing,
here's
literally be anything
a fan base,
right? And here's the thing that gets me is like, if you win the game, if your team wins the game, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is negative. The fuck is wrong with you?
No, the first thing out of your mouth should be holy shit.
Yeah, especially with the Bears, that should be the first. Like, there's no shot. All these people that are complaining about Justin Fields or anything else are thinking, man, we should really be 3-0 right now. Or they, legitimately filled out a prediction for the season and had the Bears at 2-1 or 3-0. There's zero fucking shot. And if they did, they're fucking idiots. And then with Memphis, they just fucking complain about everything. Oh, attendance is bad. Well, I'm not there because of the time of day, or I'm not there because of this. Well, the stadium needs to be on campus. I'm like, that's not going to fucking fix the issue. Why are we calling out players when we just won a fucking game?
You know what I want to go on a rant about right now is why in the world would they ever cut away from a college football game to be showing some stupid-ass baseball? I don't give a fuck about the home run record for the American League. It's not the real record. Barry Bonds set that shit way too high.
Well, that would have been the NL record.
Yeah, Aaron Judge ain't touching the real record for the major leagues.
That's the MLB record too. That's the problem. Yeah. It's just like how in hockey they quantify everything Patrick Kane does with American-born player.
Right.
And in about 15 years it'll be Austin Matthews, American-born player. Like, it's the same shit. But man,
is Austin Matthews really American-born? Why does he spell his name so stupid?
Because he's from Arizona.
California.
Arizona.
San Ramon, California.
That might be where he was born, but he started playing hockey in Arizona. We're not a hockey podcast.
Anyway, the Bears are 2-1. Good job, Bug.
Somehow. Yeah, I guess I want to end on this. Like, I don't care if you're a fan, you want to be mad about whatever you want. Jesus Christ, enjoy the win for 24 hours. If you're still that fucking pissed off about whatever it is you're pissed off about, then go ahead and say it. But to immediate, like, hey, we won, I'm going to complain immediately about X, Y, and Z. Come the fuck on.
Get a life.
In their defense, I do call Tug after every Ohio State game and complain about something.
They took their foot off the gas too much.
Here's the difference.
We are 4-0.
You expect Ohio State to double the spread every week. Memphis is 1-3 against the spread, and the only time they beat the spread was against Navy.
Yeah, Ohio State's also like 1-3 against the spread. The spread's fucked this year, by the way. And a whole nother rant. We need to wrap this show up. It's been an hour and a half. We already shouted the links, everything.
Wait. No, this is when Ben said he might fall asleep on camera. We need to sit and watch.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let's get a Snapple.
Spiny lobsters migrate in groups of 50 or more, forming a conga line on the ocean floor.
Hey.
And that's a Snapple fact for whatever reason. So before I fall asleep on camera, Tug, take us.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and for listening. And just remember, you can't win a game if you can't win in the trenches.